Let's kick off this list, number 10, with a domovoi. These creatures are said to protect your home, only if you keep them happy. Over in Russia, it is common belief that every house has a domovoi. These are very small, hairy, ugly creatures that are rarely seen, but they're usually living behind your stove or in dark areas. If you treat these creatures with respect, leave them treats, and say nice things about them, they're going to protect your house. But if you ignore them, leave your house in a mess, or constantly fight with your family, then they will destroy your house or strangle you in your sleep. I don't know about you guys, but if I had a house in Russia, I would keep it the cleanest damn thing ever. So make sure you guys in Russia watching right now, go clean your house. The Greek soldier marches into number 9 on this creepy list. This creepy urban legend originates in Greece, and it is about a Greek soldier from World War II who was captured, tortured, and brutally executed by other Greeks who disapproved of his political beliefs. He was tortured for 5 weeks, and then he was eventually murdered. After his death, stories about a very attractive Greek soldier in uniform would appear and disappear overnight. His goal was to seduce young, beautiful widows or virgins and impregnate them. 5 weeks after the mother gave birth to the baby, he would disappear for good, but he would leave a letter that explained why he disappeared. The letter said that his main goal was to return from the dead in order to spread his seed so that his sons will eventually get vengeance on those who murdered him. I mean, this just sounds so morbid and pretty damn dark. Let's just move on. The hostile urban legend. We're going to be talking about that. It's going to haunt us in at number 8. Have you guys ever seen the movie Hostel? Well, it's about college students who are backpacking through Europe. This is why I'm afraid to backpack. Well, one of their stops was in Amsterdam. They decided to rent a room at a hostel that was known for their partying. Well, they found themselves in a terrible situation full of torture chambers and murderers. So yeah, this movie was inspired by the hostile urban legend in Europe. According to the legend, hundreds of people who backpacked through Europe each year, they would mysteriously just disappear. Some people speculate that they are held in a torture room by a sick and sinister murderer, and others say that they were cut up and had their organs sold for money. A lot of people believe that this urban legend is so true that many of them stay in hotels while in Europe, but I'm starting to think that hotels are the ones that are starting this urban legends to, try to generate more money. The spider bite nibbles onto this list at number 7. This extremely disgusting urban legend surfaced in Europe during the 1970s, but it is still being circulated around the continent even to this day. Basically, this urban legend used people's irrational fear of spiders, and this will discourage them from visiting exotic countries in the south. So this urban legend gave a lot of southern countries a bad reputation that they were either unclean or very unsafe. In the story, a young woman travels to an exotic location for her vacation, but during her trip, her cheeks began to swell, so she decided to cut her trip short and she returned home in order to get some medical treatment. When the doctor examined her cheeks, he inserted something into her cheek that caused a dozen spiders to come out crawling. I mean, is this real life right now? If I saw all those spiders coming out of my cheek, I would probably faint. If not, I hope I would just pass out because there's no way I would be able to handle that situation. According to this legend, a spider had laid eggs under her skin during her vacation, and when the spiders came crawling out, it caused this woman to go insane. Well, can you blame her? I know this is just a story, but it's still pretty scary because you imagine like this could actually happen. The smiley face makes its way onto this list at number 6. Don't be fooled by the name of this urban legend because it isn't a pleasant one. This story was heavily circulated in cities across Belgium in 2002, and it is about a gang or single man who would follow a woman home from the subway and attack her in an abandoned alleyway. The gang or this man would give her a choice. They said that she can either be raped or smile forever. Seems like there's an obvious choice, so the woman easily picked the second option, but it resulted in her mouth being sliced open at the corners all the way up to her ear that it kind of resembles a clown's smile. I mean, this would be incredibly painful. I couldn't imagine that actually happening to someone. I'd really hope this urban legend is just a legend and it's not actually actually a true story, because this would be a really bad form of torture. The Strigoi bites its way into number 5. Alright, so this urban legend originates in Romania, and I think by that, you'll be able to guess what this urban legend is about. If you guessed vampires, you'd be close. However, the Strigoi are much more intense and hardcore than Dracula will ever be. This urban legend states that the Strigoi are almost like a hybrid between vampires and werewolves. So similar to vampires, they like to stalk the streets at night, but what makes them more powerful is that they're able to shapeshift into any creatures they want. So yeah, basically they're unstoppable. They can also make themselves invisible. Okay, so now that's not even fair. According to one legend, a Romanian girl claimed to have been visited by a Strigoi that took the form of her dead uncle. So the family decided not to take any chances, and they actually dug up his grave, cut his heart out, and burned it. Yeah, I'm not sure if those were the steps that I would take, but I would strongly consider it, for sure. The death car crashes onto this list at number 4. This urban legend is famously known in Poland as the Black Volga, and this story originated back in the 1960s and quickly spread throughout Eastern Europe. This legend goes something like this. There is a Black Volga that is driven by evil priests and nuns, black-robed Satanists, vampires, and even the devil, who would abduct people, and then they would be sacrificed to evil spirits. People have claimed that they've seen this car driving around Poland, but instead of having mirrors on the side of his car, it had ram horns. The modern version of this urban legend claims that the Black Volga is driven by gang members or thugs who abduct people in order to harvest their organs and then sell them to the rich, Americans or Arabs who suffer from terminal illnesses. So the moral of this story is, if you see a Black Volga, you might want to run for your life because you could be the next victim. The boogeyman tiptoes into number 3 on our list. I think it's safe to say that almost every country has their own variation of the boogeyman. I know for me, the boogeyman, he lives under my bed. I'm not sure what he looks like because I don't dare look underneath there at nighttime. But if you're going to be talking about the Czech Republic's version of this, they refer to their boogeyman as a bubek. That's what they call the boogeyman. He is supposed to look like a terrifying scarecrow and makes chilling sounds of a crying baby in order to lure his unsuspected victim. That's one of the most creepiest things ever. When there's a full moon, he weaves a cloth from the souls of the people that he has stolen, and he drives a cart that is pulled by cats. The bubek's main target is misbehaving children, but he doesn't discriminate. He is it to eat anyone or anything that is foolish enough to cross his path. So I guess what I've learned from this urban legend is to not wander around creepy abandoned places when there is a full moon. I'm gonna do it when there's a half a moon. And if I ever hear a crying baby, I'm just going to run the other way. Okay, not really. The Gryla claws its way into number 2. This horrifying urban legend takes us all the way back over to Iceland. And after you hear about this legend, you probably want to avoid driving to Iceland during Christmas time. And that's because Iceland created a terrifying creature, and this creature is named Gryla, who is a giant troll with hooves for feet and has 13 tails. This creepy looking figure is always in a horrible mood, and she is constantly hungry for children. During each Christmas, Gryla comes out of her cave in order to hunt for misbehaving children. Once she finds them, she stuffs them into her sack, drags them to her cave where she boils them alive and adds their dead corpse to her favorite stew. I mean, what the heck is being taught in Iceland? Just tell your kids to be good. Don't be making up some urban legends crap for them to behave. I bet you this is pretty effective. I bet you everyone in Iceland, all the kids are like so behaved. Okay, the White Death brings us to number 1. I think we've done it again. I think we've saved the best for last here. This is an urban legend that originated in Scotland about a little girl who hated life so much that she wanted to destroy every trace and evidence that showed that she ever existed. I mean, this is some pretty messed up stuff, pretty deep. One day she decided to commit suicide in her bedroom, and shortly after her family found out that she was dead, strange things began to happen. Every family member died within a few days after they discovered her body, except all of their limbs had been torn off. The legends say that when you learn about the White Dead, this little girl's spirit will find you, knock on your door until you answer. Each knock gets louder and louder until you finally open the door. But when you do, she will brutally murder you because she is scared that someone will tell someone else that she exists. So basically this little girl is very sinister and will stop at nothing to prevent people from knowing about her. So I guess we're all kind of screwed now. If you hear knocking at your door tonight, I suggest you guys don't answer. Yeah, I'm pretty freaked out right now.
Starting us off at number 10 are Laituvans. This urban legend is from Latvian folklore, and Laituvans are said to be the souls of a killed person, meaning if you were murdered, hanged, drowned, you could be one of these Laituvans. These souls are cursed to remain on Earth as long as their fate permits them to, and in some parts of Latvia they believe they're the souls of unbaptized children, so it really depends on the version you grew up with. They're meant to be extremely dangerous, and I'm not surprised. I mean, if I was stuck on Earth for centuries when I didn't want to be, I'd start causing shit as well. I think anyone would. They've been known to attack domestic animals and humans, and a common method for them is sleep paralysis. They strangle us in our sleep, but you can escape the attack if you move the toe on your left foot. Oddly specific, but facts are facts, guys. You'd think you'd be safe if you just locked the doors before bed, but wrong again. They can fit through keyholes and slits under doors, so you're out of luck there as well. Looks wise, they appear as labored, small but fast children. Very rarely do they look like ugly witch-like women, but they can. The deaths they cause are painful, you guys, and I kid you not. The victim loses all their strength, they get super tired, they're basically drowning in sweat, and they can't move since the Laituvan is lying on top of them, and with that you slowly lose the ability to breathe, bit by bit, until your heart stops beating. Coming in at number 9 is the Lake Somin monster. Located in Lake Somin in the village of Lukiv in Ukraine, this monster is meant to be 30 feet long with the body of a crocodile and the head of a snake. He makes this deep wheezing, groaning sound that vibrates throughout the whole lake, and he lives deep within the underwater caves. He lies waiting for his victims at night and dusk, and comes out of the lake to drag his victims to their deaths. They can eat horses, humans, sheep, cats, dogs, anything. The first story about the monster was before World War I, where a village leader refused to pay his fishing taxes because he thought there was a strange serpent in the lake. Everyone was terrified, and an expedition was even launched but was called off when the war started. Stories arose again during World War II of a crocodile-like beast, and another expedition began, but no creature was ever found. At number 8 we have the gnome king Kyrie. According to this Dutch urban legend, Kyrie was the king of all the gnomes that live in North Brabant in the Netherlands. From their base they travelled quite a bit, and legend has it King Kyrie lived on Gnome Mountain, ironically also known as Devil's Mountain. I was gonna try saying it in the actual Dutch word, but I knew I would just completely bottle it, so I just didn't even bother. The gnomes weren't evil, surprisingly. They would help farmers in their homes as well as people in other villages. They hated being seen, so would only travel at night, but if you were unfortunate enough to see a gnome, they'd have you for it. One farmer who apparently saw them was made blind in one eye just for glancing at them. The king ended up being shot by a hunter in the 1950s, and a statue of him was actually erected in the village they lived in called Hogloon. I know I said that wrong, but I really tried. Filling our number 7 slot is Peikko. This urban legend comes from Finland, and I'm so happy to include this one because I've literally seen so many comments asking for Finnish urban legends, so at least I can semi-make it happen for you guys. And I don't know if I saw a lot of comments or just the same users commenting the same thing. But anyway, Peikko is said to be a massive creature similar to a giant who can turn invisible at will, change size at will, sleep in the form of a rocky landform for hundreds of years, and worst of all, he's been known to make holes in children's teeth. Since every country has their own version of the boogeyman, the Peikko is Finland's inspired version of it. He kidnaps children, and do we really need to go into what he does with them? Like, I think we all know. Let's just skip the atrocities. We don't have to talk about that. We don't. I don't need to imagine that, neither do you. Now at number 6 is the Enchanted Moura. Hailing from Portugal, the legend of the Enchanted Moura is very popular in local folklore there. Moura is an extremely beautiful and seductive shapeshifter that lives under an occult spell that was put on her against her will. She lives in places that represent boundaries like gates and doorways, and can build with incredible strength. She usually shows up combing her hair and singing. Sometimes her hair is blonde, sometimes it's black, and if you promise to help set her free, she promises to give you treasure in return. These magical maidens were said to be the souls of the girls left behind to guard the treasure their partners hid before going to Morama. They guard castles and rivers and are actually not evil. I know most female urban legend appearances are evil, but I mean they're pretty okay. I don't want to confuse people, it isn't one person, there's many versions of this enchanted Mora. There's many maidens. It's not just one, but they're all Mora. I'm gonna stop talking now. Coming in at number 5 is the dancing policeman. This urban legend may be one of the most well-known ghosts in all of Serbia. Back in the 60s, at the busiest intersection in Belgrade worked traffic policeman Jova Bull. Every day he wore a full white uniform. I'm talking white gloves, white hat, white everything. And his hand gestures were so elegant it was almost artistic. It was like a dance. Watchers were left breathless. It was like he was conducting a ballet, not cars. His face and smile drew you in, and it's like he was everything you wanted no matter who you were. If you violated regulations, he'd just wag a finger, and he'd even blow kisses at people. He stole the hearts of so many he started appearing on TV and in the newspaper. The mayor of London even invited him to London after seeing him once, not even meeting him. He was less liked in London since his movements weren't as feminine as his counterparts, and the authorities also hated him. He didn't want to rise up, he just loved his job and wanted to keep at it. Even after being moved to a less busy intersection, he drew people in. In the end, the authorities had had enough of him and made him retire early, and he died as the keeper of a small parking lot. They say you can see his spirit hover in the Belgrade intersection and the London one like an invisible ballet dancer. Honestly, this is a ghost I'd actually like to see. He seems very unproblematic and not scary. And I like a good traffic controller. I like nice traffic. Bad drivers are a no. At number 4 is the Petrin Fire. This urban legend is from the Czech Republic and it centers around Petrin Hill. Nowadays it's a lovely park and garden where you can go for a nice date or romantic stroll, but being there at night is a lot more of a risk. Despite its reputation today, there used to be a pagan grove on the hill in the middle of a group of lime trees. In the middle of this grove was a huge sacrificial altar where it said the pagan priests used to burn young virgins for their gods. When Prince Boleslav came to power, he radically went after the pagans, and their altar and grove were both destroyed and a church was built nearby instead. But the pagan faith was more resilient than that. It wasn't just gonna go away because this altar was destroyed. The pagan gods made themselves known on the hill by creating random fires that would magically contain themselves. But they weren't just fires. If people looked inside them, they would see the grimacing faces of all the pagans the prince had killed. And these fires are still happening till this day at night. They happen at random times and can last for around 20 minutes. If any of you subs are from Czech Republic and are watching this, can you let me know if you've seen these fires? I really need to know. Thank you. Filling our number 3 slot is the house on Rataskäivu Street. This one comes from Estonia and follows the story of a house located on Rataskäivu Street. The man who lived there was trash. Honestly, he wasted all of his money and honestly had no future, and on top of that he was heavily in debt. One night he thought enough was enough. Life didn't seem worth living anymore, and so he tried to commit suicide. Just as he was about to do it, a stranger broke into his room asking for one thing. Let the man get married on the top floor of his house, and if he agreed, he would be rich beyond his dreams. But there was one condition. No one could eavesdrop on this wedding. If they did, it would cost the man his money and the eavesdropper their life. And did I mention the stranger was the devil himself? Sorry, I should have included that earlier, but you know, I like the build up. Anyway, the night of the wedding, the guests arrived, but you couldn't see them. You could hear them, but they were invisible, enjoying the festivities somewhere in the ether. The lights were on, the music was playing, the house was shaking like the weight of the guests was overloading it. As it became 1 AM, everything stopped. Everything was silent. The man was expecting his fortune, but as he was making his way upstairs, his butler got sick and died. He'd been eavesdropping on the wedding, and we knew what would happen if that happened, guys. We were forewarned. That room of the house that he died in is said to be walled up now, and the window facing the street is also boarded up. Never make a deal with the devil, people. It literally never ends well. Ever. Did I mention ever? Because it doesn't. How many videos of this do I have to make? No deal with the devil. Thank you. Now at number 2 is the pastor's wife. This legend is pretty tragic, I'm not gonna lie, and it hails all the way from Denmark. Way back when, a woman married a pastor, but she was hiding a massive secret. Under no circumstances ever did she ever want kids, so much so, she found a witch who told her she was gonna have 7 kids in the future. The witch gave her 7 stones to throw into a well, and that would prevent all the pregnancies. She did it and resumed normal life. Her and the pastor went for a walk one night, and he realized his wife didn't have a shadow. Everyone has a shadow, why the hell doesn't she? He realized she must have done something horrifically evil for this to happen and tried getting her to confess to him, but she refused. He kicked her out of their house and forced every villager to refuse her. He cursed her by saying it's more likely a red rose would grow out of his stone dining room table than for her to redeem herself. Harsh words. Absolutely crushed, the woman left the village and found a priest in another village nearby. He said to redeem herself she had to stay in the church overnight with a book he had given her, and that she can't give the book to anyone no matter what because many will be asking for it. And he was right. That night she was haunted and spat on by all the kids she would have had. They verbally abused her for being so selfish, but she got through it and the next day she was redeemed. But the priest said the only catch now is that you only have 1 day to live. She rushed back to her village hoping to see her husband one last time, but again no one let her in except one kind soul. She died behind an oven in that person's house, and the next day the pastor was heart attack level shocked when he saw a red rose coming out of his stone table. Overcome with heartache, he searched for his wife everywhere, and when he found out she was dead, he went mad and died soon after. I have no words. It hurts me. It hurts me here. And finally, at number 1 is Polodnica. Hailing from Slovakia but appearing in a lot of Slavic folklore, Polodnica is the noon demon, also known as Lady Midday or the Noon Witch. She mostly appears during the summer as a beautiful young woman in white, or an old hag, or even a 12-year-old girl who roams fields in the countryside. She takes the form of dust clouds and then appears literally out of nowhere and is always carrying a pair of shears or a scythe. She'll trick workers on the field by asking them a hard question, and if they answer it wrong, which most of them do, she'll quickly just change the subject and then behead them. Literally savage. She either beheads you, or if she's having a good day, she'll just give you a terminal illness. I don't know which one is better, to be fair. Neither really. One's a sudden death and the other is a slow burner. I don't know which one I'd choose. Which one would you choose? Probably the beheading, I feel. But then, I'd have more time with it. Either way, let me know in the comments. She's known as a personification of getting sunstroke, and her presence has been linked to causing heat stroke in many people now. She causes aches in their neck, and if it's bad, one can even go mad.
So starting off this list, and at number 10 we have the Loch Ness Monster. Everyone's been talking about this Loch Ness Monster. Has anyone actually seen it? Nessie is a lake creature that is said to lurk in the depths of Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. This lake is notorious for being murky and frigid, which is perfect for a creature like this. The Loch Ness Lake is up to 755 feet deep, which gives Nessie plenty of place to hide. For years, there have been so much debate on whether or not the Loch Ness Monster actually exists. There are even people who have said that they've seen the creature with their own eyes, and then of course there are all those pictures on the internet. But as it turns out, Nessie might be real after all. A major scientific study was conducted to find out the truth. Scientists from New Zealand took DNA from creatures that have lived in the lake. When they analyzed the samples, they found out that there might be evidence that the Loch Ness Monster really does exist. Hundreds of thousands of people travel to Loch Ness every single year in hopes that they're going to be able to catch a glimpse of Nessie himself. And you know what, maybe one day we can say for certain if, it actually exists or not. Next up, number 9, we have the Black Shuck. Take a look at this thing. The Black Shuck is a ghostly looking creature that resembles a huge black dog, except it has devilish red or green eyes. According to local reports, the Black Shuck is known to lurk in the countryside of East Anglia in England. But be careful, if you spot this beast, it is believed that you will die shortly after, or you'll become seriously sick. But one thing is for certain, if you manage to look this creature in the eye, you will for sure die. According to one old town legend, in 1577, this giant hellhound killed 2 people who were outside of a church, and then just 12 miles away, it killed 2 more people. Clearly this thing is more terrifying than Cujo, and I really hope this monster doesn't actually exist. but unfortunately I can't say for certain that it doesn't. Number 8, domovoi. Let me take you guys over to Russia, where they believe that every house has a domovoi. These are small hairy creatures that are barely seen, but everyone believes that they're probably living behind your stove. I couldn't believe this one. Well, the goal of the domovoi is to maintain order and peace throughout your house. So basically, if you treat them with respect, they will help you out with chores, but if you act rudely, violently, or if you are messy, the domovoi will resort to poltergeist activities and they'll really mess things up for you. They might wake you up in the middle of the night, break things, or disturb your sleep. If you don't keep up with their demands, they will basically make your life a living hell and wreak havoc on you and your home. They say that when people die in their sleep or from natural causes, it was actually the domovoi killing them. Yeah, I'd probably make sure that you mop and turn the dishwasher on tonight. I don't think any of us want the domovoi to get really upset. Loup-garou makes it onto this list at number 7. This is the French version of the werewolf that I am so pronouncing the name wrong. However, it is much more sinister. This creature can change from a human into a wolf whenever it wants, and unlike a typical werewolf, it doesn't depend on the moon's phases. So basically this thing can terrorize and hurt humans whenever they feel like it. When the loup-garou transforms into a werewolf, they are still able to think and rationalize like humans, so this ability makes them incredibly smart and way more dangerous. Oh, and get this, they can also turn into a dog, calf, pig, cat, or even owl. So because of this, humanoid creature is able to transform into a bunch of different animals. How can you rule out its existence? The simple answer is we cannot. Next up, number 6, we have Quadramentian. This scary creature is believed to be living in the lakes and seas throughout Luxembourg. He is said to be lurking in the water, and he will spare children who come too close. Remind me to never go swimming in Luxembourg ever. But wait, there's more horror to this story. It doesn't end there. Apparently he can also appear in bathrooms, bathtubs, and toilets. I mean, wait, what? Is this real life right now? What are you doing lurking in the toilet? Do you know what I'm about to do? They are also known to be extremely aggressive, and they will stalk their victims until they have dragged them beneath the water. Pretty terrifying if you asked me. They carry a large spear that they use to impale their victims, and people believe that this hideous creature is the reason behind a lot of the unexplained drownings that happen in the lake and seas in Luxembourg. The Krakenot's tail takes us up to number 5 on our list. This terrifying creature is pretty similar to the Yeti, except it's believed that he lives in the mountain between Czech Republic and Poland. Apparently he is extremely unpredictable, and you never know if he's going to ignore you or if you'll become his next snack. According to this folklore, one day he could choose to send an avalanche your way, or he could decide to save you from freezing temperatures. So if this hairy beast is actually alive, then it's probably a good idea to just avoid him at all costs. Oh, and the Krakenotch is known to target unsuspecting hikers in the area, and he will always use force of nature to carry out his evil deeds. And now at number 4, we're talking about the strigoi, which comes from Romania. Alright guys, brace yourselves because this next creature looks like my absolute nightmare coming to life. The strigoi are actually pretty similar to vampires because they like to roam the streets at night, and they are also known as supernatural creatures. But are these things just scary monsters from folklore, or could they be real? The thing about the strigoi is that they're able to shapeshift into any creature that they want. So locating them or hunting them would be next to impossible. I guess it would also be impossible to know whether or not they exist. And also they can make themselves invisible, so what do they crave the most? Yeah, you guessed it, it's blood. Actually back in 2004, a Romanian girl claimed that she was visited by a strigoi, and it took the form of her dead uncle, so the family dug up his grave, cut his heart out, and burned it. And yeah, I guess that's the most logical thing to do. It's kind of weird. I don't recommend any of you guys doing that because that is absolutely wrong. And now at number 3, we have vampires from Eastern Europe. A scary European creature list could not be complete without some good old-fashioned vampires. Whenever I think of vampires, I'm thinking, you know, sharp fangs, their insatiable desire for blood, and their extremely cold and pale skin, and they sleep upside down. But are they just a myth? Or could real vampires be roaming the earth looking to sink their fangs in unexpected humans? I'm not gonna rule anything out. I mean, anything is plausible, right? Do you guys know how many people have reported seeing a vampire? Well, there are too many to count. So could all of them be making this up? I probably believe that there are some scary cannibalistic humans out there, but I don't know if I can get on board with real life vampires. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are vampires real? Number 2 takes us over to Prekoliki in Romania. For those of you guys who aren't aware, Prekoliki is basically a terrifying giant wolf that is hungry for some human flesh. And yeah, I didn't know what they were either. I did the Google search thing. Well, it is said that violent men become Prekoliki after they die so that they can continue harming other humans. But many people believe in Romania, well, they have claimed that they were viciously attacked by an abnormal large and strong wolf. It's also said that these wolves attack silently and unexpectedly. Victims of these attacks also say that these wolves aren't ordinary wolves. So what are they? Well, they are something much more sinister, larger, and aggressive. That's why that there is a strong belief in Russia. There is a myth of the Prekoliki could actually be a harsh reality. And if we aren't careful, then these things could easily kill us off, like one by one. And now number 1, we have the Fearliath. This is the name that is given to a 10-foot tall humanoid creature that haunts the 2nd tallest mountain in Scotland. So if you love to hike, and you're in Scotland, I'd recommend hiking either the 3rd tallest or the tallest mountain in Scotland. This hairy creature is known to cause an uncontrollable feeling of anxiety or panic among hikers who are near him. The first recorded sighting by a scientist was way back in 1890. He was so scared for his life that he didn't tell anyone about his encounter until 1925, which is 35 years later. But once he did, he discovered that others had the same experience he did. He realized that the Fearliath might actually be real and he could be terrorizing and brutally killing hikers in Scotland. So hikers beware.